Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Before we dive into the video, make sure to subscribe and ring the bell icon. Let's dive in.
A year after my wife passed. No, wait, this is a completely different story. Sign it before dessert or I promise you my son will have his marriage annulled by Monday morning. My mother-in-law's voice was quiet. That was the thing about Margaret Holloway. She never raised her voice. She didn't need to. She had spent 40 years perfecting the kind of calm that made you feel the floor shifting beneath you. Have you ever sat at a family dinner where everyone smiled while quietly planning your destruction? If you have, stay with me because what happened next at that Thanksgiving table changed everything. I looked at the document sitting next to the cranberry sauce. A postnuptial agreement, 14 pages, drafted by the most expensive family law attorney in Connecticut, designed to strip me of every marital asset if my husband and I ever divorced. It had been printed on heavy cream stock, the kind of paper that costs more per sheet than most people's lunch. Someone had placed a pen beside it like silverware, like it was part of the place setting. My husband, Daniel, sat directly across from me. He was studying his wine glass with the focused attention of a man who had decided the safest thing he could do tonight was become invisible. He wouldn't look at me. He hadn't looked at me since we pulled through the iron gates of his parents' estate 2 hours ago. His father, Howard, sat at the head of the table, cutting his turkey with the slow, precise movements of someone who had already won. His sister, Victoria, was doing that thing she always did, performing a kind of theatrical indifference, examining her manicure while her husband Preston quietly refilled his glass and watched me the way you watch a car accident before it happens. This was Thanksgiving at the Holloways. This was what I had married into 3 years ago when I was 28 years old and naive enough to believe that love was an effective armor. Margaret folded her hands on the tablecloth and looked at me with the particular expression she reserved for things that disappointed her. Contractors who missed deadlines, caterers who misunderstood portion sizes, and me. "Claire," she said, making my name sound like a minor inconvenience. "You're a smart girl. I've always said that about you. You're smart enough to understand what this family represents. The Holloway name opens doors that most people spend entire lifetimes standing outside of. What we're asking isn't unreasonable. Simply a formality." "A formality?" I repeated. "Daniel's grandfather built this family from nothing," Howard said, setting down his fork. "We protect what was built." "That's not personal." "Feels a little personal," I said. Victoria looked up from her nails. She smiled at me. The specific smile she had been perfecting since the day Daniel introduced us. The one that said she found me amusing, the way you find a child's drawing amusing, with affectionate condescension. "No one is attacking you, Claire. We just think that given your background, it's reasonable to have certain protections in place. You came into this family with nothing. We'd simply like clarity on what leaves with you if things don't work out." Your background. Those 2 words had been following me around this house for 3 years. Your background meaning the small apartment in Akron where I grew up. Your background meaning the fact that my mother worked double shifts at a grocery store, and my father had been gone since I was 4. Your background meaning that I had not been born into a family with a name that opened doors, so clearly I must have married one to get through them. They had never asked what I did. Not really. Not with genuine curiosity. Daniel had told them early on that I ran a small software company, and Margaret had nodded the way you nod when someone tells you they've taken up watercolor painting. Polite. Dismissive. The topic never came up again. To the Holloways, I was a pretty girl from nowhere who had charmed their son into a wedding, and was now statistically likely to take half his trust fund if the marriage dissolved. They weren't entirely wrong about being strategic. They were just wrong about which one of us was playing chess. "I'm not signing it," I said. The table went still. Daniel finally looked up at me. His expression was complicated, part guilt, part warning, part something I recognized as the look of a man who knows he has made a series of bad decisions and is now watching them compound in real time. "Claire," he started. "I'm not signing it," I said again calmly. The same calm Margaret used. I had been practicing it. Howard leaned back in his chair. "Then I want you to understand what that means. I have a call scheduled with our attorney at 9 tomorrow morning. We begin the annulment process on grounds of fraudulent misrepresentation." "Fraudulent misrepresentation," I said. "That's an interesting choice of words." Preston cleared his throat. He was the enforcer, the one they used when they wanted to deliver bad news in the language of reasonableness. "Claire, we've done our due diligence. We know your company's last filed revenue. We know what it is. $48,000 last year. He paused. We're not here to humiliate you. We're here to protect the family. I looked at Preston for a long moment. 48,000, I said. That's what the filing showed. Pull out your phones, I said, and search for Velar Systems. VLAR. It's fine. I'll wait. Daniel's face had changed. He was looking at me the way he used to look at me in the beginning, before the Holloways had slowly, patiently worked on him like a current wearing down a stone, with wonder, like he had just remembered something about me that the last 3 years had caused him to forget. He picked up his phone. He typed. I watched him read. I watched the color leave his face. The last public valuation of Velar Systems, reported in a piece in the Wall Street Journal 14 months ago, was $2.1 billion. The Holloways' total family net worth, including the estate we were sitting in and all of Howard's commercial real estate holdings, was approximately $400 million. I knew this because I had read their financial disclosure during the due diligence process before I allowed one of my subsidiaries to extend them a line of commercial credit 2 years ago. This isn't. Howard started. Possible? I offered. You've been running this company since before you married Daniel? Margaret asked. Her voice had not changed. I respected that about her even now. She was a woman who did not allow herself the luxury of visible shock. I founded it when I was 24, I said. The 48,000 on the filing Preston mentioned belongs to a shell entity I used for administrative purposes. It has nothing to do with the operating company. I picked up the post-nuptial agreement and held it for a moment. I understand why you had this drawn up. You thought you were protecting your family. You thought I was someone who had something to gain and nothing to offer. You thought the math was simple. How? Daniel said. It wasn't quite a question. It was the sound of a person's model of reality cracking. I didn't lie to you, I said, and I meant it. I had told Daniel I had a company. I had told him it was growing. I had told him on our third date, sitting on the floor of my apartment eating takeout because I hadn't yet bought a couch, that I was going to build something that lasted. He had laughed gently and said that was very ambitious of me. He had not asked follow-up questions. Neither had his family. That was the thing about the Holloways. They looked at me and saw a category, and categories don't require investigation. I reached into my bag and pulled out a manila folder. I set it on the table next to the postnuptial agreement. 18 months ago, I said, your family took out a commercial credit line of $12 million to refinance 3 of the Holloway Group properties. The lending institution was Meridian Capital Partners. I looked at Howard. In November of last year, I acquired a controlling interest in Meridian Capital, which means as of that acquisition, I hold the note on your credit line. The line is in technical default as of 30 days ago. The balloon payment due in December was missed. Not by much, but missed. I opened the folder and slid a single document across the table. I want to be very clear about that. I have no interest in destabilizing the Holloway properties. I have no interest in your business. What I have is documentation, and what I want is for everyone at this table to understand what the actual math looks like. I looked at Preston. Since we're doing due diligence, the account you've been running through Trident Advisory received material non-public information about Pelios Pharma's FDA filing timeline. The source of that information was a contact at Strickland Financial. Strickland was acquired by a Velar subsidiary in September. Their internal communications are now subject to our compliance review. I forwarded the relevant files to the SEC's whistleblower division 6 days ago. I want to be clear, I said to the table, that I did not do any of this tonight. I did not engineer this dinner. You called me here. You put that document next to the cranberry sauce. You chose tonight. I just came prepared. What do you want? Margaret finally asked. I want my husband to look at me, I said. Daniel looked up. I want you to understand, I said to him, that I am not doing this to hurt you. I am doing this because for 3 years I have sat in this house and let your family define what I was worth to them. And I kept my mouth shut because I thought if I was just patient enough, it would become clear on its own. That document they put in front of me tonight, did you know about it? They told me it was a formality, he said quietly. I looked at him steadily. I'm still your wife. I'd like the chance to figure out if that means something to us independent of all of this. But that's your decision. I picked up my bag. I buttoned my coat. I'll be at the Whitmore Hotel if you want to talk. Genuinely talk. Not Holloway talk. Actual conversation. I walked toward the door. Behind me I heard the sound of the front doorbell. Heard Howard stand. Heard Victoria say Preston's name once sharply like a question that already knew its answer. I didn't stop walking. Outside, the November air was clean and cold. The gravel was loud under my heels. My car was at the end of the circular driveway. I had parked it there deliberately, facing out. I sat for a moment with my hands on the wheel, watching the lights of the estate in the rearview mirror. That night, I didn't reclaim a seat at their table. I remembered I had never needed one.